Manhattan was drowning in cold November rain. Outside Marchetti Tower, taxis hissed through wet streets. Inside, the marble lobby gleamed under chandeliers worth more than most people earned in a year. 2 security guards stood at the entrance, their faces blank. Then the revolving door turned, and a child stepped through. She was 6 years old, small, even for her age. Her coat was 3 sizes too big. Her dark hair was plastered to her forehead. Her shoes squeaked against the polished floor. She walked straight to the front desk like she'd rehearsed it. "I need to see Mr. Lucas Marchetti." The first guard almost laughed. "Sweetheart, you can't just... I need to see Mr. Lucas Marchetti." Same tone, same words. "Stop." Mrs. Hayes had worked for the Marchetti family for 30 years. She walked over, her eyes locked on the little girl, and something in her chest went still. She had seen those eyes before. A long time ago, the elevator chimed. Lucas Marchetti stepped out, mid-conversation. 37 years old, sharp-suited, the kind of man rooms quieted around. He stopped when he saw the small crowd. "What's going on?" The girl tilted her head back to look at him. "You're Lucas Marchetti." It wasn't a question. "I am." She opened her hand. A gold ring, worn smooth at the edges. "I came to give my mom's ring back." Lucas didn't move. "Your mother's ring? Why would you bring it to me? My mom said it belongs to you." He reached down. The metal was warm from her palm. He turned it between his fingers and saw the engraving inside the band LM. "Forever." "Emma," he whispered. The elevator chimed again. Heels on marble. "Lucas, darling, are you Isabella Romano?" Stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes dropped to the ring. Every drop of color drained from her face. In a single motion, she crossed the lobby and snatched the ring from his fingers. "This doesn't belong here." Lucas's hand stayed open in the air. "Give it back." Isabella didn't. She bent toward the child, voice silk-soft and venom-cold. "So, you're Emma Carter's daughter." The girl said nothing. She just looked at Isabella the way children look at things that frighten them but that they refuse to run from. "Did your mother send you? Why didn't she come herself?" A long pause. "My mom can't come." Lucas's head turned sharply. "Can't? Why not?" The girl looked at the floor. "My mom can't walk anymore. They hurt her really bad." The lobby went quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight. Isabella recovered first. How touching. But this really isn't a place for a child to wander into, Isabella. Lucas's voice cut clean through the marble. "Give me the ring. Now." She held his gaze one heartbeat too long, then placed it in his palm. Lucas crouched down to the girl's level. "What's your name?" "Lily Carter." "Carter." The name landed like a bullet. "Mrs. Hayes. Take her to my private office. Get her something dry. Something to eat." Lucas, Isabella started. "Go home. Tell my mother I'll call her later." "Lucas, we have a go. Home." She left, but not before she looked at the small girl with a stare that wasn't anger. It was something colder, something that remembered. Mrs. Hayes held out her hand. Lily took it. Lucas stood alone in the middle of the lobby long after the elevator doors closed. Rain streaked the windows. The city kept moving, but in his closed fist, a ring he had given 7 years ago burned against his palm, and somewhere in this city, a woman he had spent 7 years pretending to forget couldn't walk anymore. The past had just walked through his front door wearing a soaked coat and a child's face. And it wasn't leaving. The 50th floor was quiet in a way the lobby never was. Lucas pushed open the door to his private office. Bulletproof glass, dark walnut, a view of the Hudson River that most New Yorkers would never see from this height. Lily stepped inside and stopped. She didn't move toward the chair. She didn't touch the desk. She just stood in the center of the room, both hands gripping a small, folded handkerchief like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Mrs. Hayes followed in with a warm towel and a sandwich on a porcelain plate. "Sit down, sweetheart. Don't be afraid." Lily shook her head. "I'll get the chair dirty." Lucas turned from the window. "Sit down, Lily. It's leather. It'll be fine." She hesitated, then climbed up and perched on the very edge, her feet swinging far above the floor. Lucas placed the ring on the desk between them and slid it gently toward her side. "Who told you to bring this here?" "My mom. She said you needed to know." "Know what?" Lily looked down at the ring. "That she never sold it." Lucas sat down across from her, his voice softened, careful, like reaching for something that might break. "Your mother, Emma Carter. Where is she?" "We live in Queens. My mom works nights at St. Mary's Hospital. She's a nurse." "And how was she hurt?" Lily's small fingers tightened around the handkerchief. 2 weeks ago, some men came into our apartment. They were looking for something. My mom fell down the stairs. They pushed her. Now she can't get up by herself." Lucas's hand closed slowly around the arm of his chair. Someone had hurt Emma. Someone had been in her home. How did you find me, Lily? She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something carefully folded, a creased piece of newsprint, the edges soft from being touched too many times. A photograph. Lucas at a charity gala 2 years ago. The caption listed the address of this building. My mom kept it in her drawer. After she got hurt, I found it. The address was at the bottom. Lucas held the clipping like it might dissolve. Emma had been watching, quietly, from a distance, for years. How did you get here? Subway. I saved up the candy money Mom gives me. The room went quiet. A 6-year-old, alone, across the entire city. Behind him, Mrs. Hayes turned her face away and pressed her knuckles to her mouth. Does your mother know you're here? Lily shook her head. I left her a note. I said I was going to buy her medicine. Lucas stood up. He pressed a button on his desk. Marcus, bring the car around. We're going to Queens. Now. Lily looked up. You're going to see my mom? Lucas paused, then turned back, fully, and looked at her. Really looked. Yes, it's time. The girl was quiet for a long moment. Then her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Don't make my mom cry. Lucas froze. The words landed somewhere in his chest he hadn't known was still soft. Somewhere he had spent 7 years building walls around. He crouched down, slowly, until his eyes were level with hers. I'll try. He held out his hand. After a beat, she took it. Her fingers were small and cold and trusting in a way that hurt him in a way he couldn't explain. Mrs. Hayes opened the office door. In the hallway, the elevator was already waiting. Lucas walked beside the child, his other hand still closed tight around the gold ring in his pocket. For 7 years, Emma Carter had been a memory, a wound he had learned to live around, something he took out only late at night, when the city was quiet and the bourbon was gone. But memories don't bleed. Memories don't get pushed downstairs. Memories don't send their daughter alone across a city in the rain. The elevator doors slid open. Lucas stepped inside with Lily's hand still in his. For the first time in 7 years, Emma Carter wasn't the past. She was somewhere across the river, lying in a bed she couldn't get out of, and he was about to find her. The bridge into Queens was empty at this hour. In the back of the armored sedan, Lily had fallen asleep within minutes of leaving the tower. Her cheek pressed against the leather, her small fingers still loosely curled around the corner of Lucas's coat. Lucas watched her in the rearview mirror. She had Emma's eyes, the same exact tilt at the corners, but the set of her jaw, the stubborn line of her chin that was his. The realization hit harder than he expected. Marcus drove without speaking. He had been with Lucas long enough to know when silence was the only correct response. The city slid past the windows in streaks of wet light, and somewhere between one streetlight and the next, Lucas's mind drifted back. 7 years ago. He had been 30 years old, 3 weeks into running the Marchetti family after his father's funeral. The blood was still drying on the men who'd thought a transition meant a window. He had taken a bullet through the side. Couldn't go to the family doctor. The family doctor was being watched. They'd brought him into St. Mary's under a false name. Lucas Wilson, businessman, auto accident. The night nurse on the 3rd floor had been 21 years old. A medical student working overnight, shifts to pay tuition. Quiet hands, tired eyes that still managed to be kind. She didn't ask questions. She didn't read the newspapers stacked in the break room with his real face on the front page. She just changed his dressings and brought him water, and once, when he couldn't sleep, sat beside his bed and read aloud from a paperback she kept in her locker. 6 months. That was all they had. 6 months in which a man who had never known anything softer than steel learned what it felt like to come home to someone. He had bought the ring at a small shop in Brooklyn. Gold. Simple. L.M. Forever. He had slid it onto her finger in her studio apartment, with cheap wine and the radiator clanging in the background, and he had told her, I'm going to get you out of this life. I promise. Boss. We're here. Marcus's voice cut through. Lucas blinked. Queens. A tired apartment building, paint peeling around the windows, a single bulb flickering above the entrance. He carried Lily out of the car. She made a small sound and wrapped her arms around his neck in her sleep, her face pressing into his shoulder. Lucas froze for a half second. He had held weapons, contracts, other men's collars in his fists. He had never, in his entire life, held a child. It was the warmest thing he had ever felt. Marcus walked behind him, quiet, watchful. The elevator was out of service. They took the stairs. 4th floor, apartment 4B. The blue paint on the door was chipped down to the wood in places. Lucas stopped. He didn't know what he was going to say. He took a breath, knocked. Silence. He knocked again, harder. A weak voice, from somewhere inside. Lily? Sweetheart, is that you? Lucas closed his eyes. Emma, open the door. It's me. Silence the dangerous kind. Then a slow, dragging step. A sharp inhale, like someone bracing against pain. The door opened a few inches. Blue eyes, familiar, older, tired in a way that broke something in him. Emma's hair was loose and unwashed. She'd lost weight she hadn't had to lose. One hand braced against the wall. A brace ran from her hip to her knee. The breath left her. How are you here? Who brought you? She came to me. Emma. Emma's eyes dropped to the sleeping child in his arms. Oh God. Lily. Her knees buckled. Lucas caught her. She tried to push his hand away. Don't touch me. You don't have the right. He didn't let go. He held her until she was steady, then guided her inside. The apartment was small, clean, a narrow bed, a worn sofa, the refrigerator covered, edge to edge, in photographs of Lily. Emma lowered herself onto the chair, breathing hard, and pointed toward the bed. Put her down, then leave. Lucas laid Lily carefully on the bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin. Then he turned around. Emma sat in the lamplight, thinner than memory, the ghost of the woman he had once promised everything to. The clock on the wall ticked. Neither of them spoke. 7 years sat between them, and there were no words on earth. Lucas pulled the wooden chair across from Emma and sat down slowly. How were you hurt, Emma? She turned her face toward the wall. None of your business. You gave up the right to ask me anything 7 years ago. I just found out I have a daughter. Everything is my business now, Emma laughed. A small, dry, broken sound. No, you don't have rights with Lily. I carried her alone. I gave birth to her alone. I raised her alone. You don't get a place here. Emma, what are you talking about? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired, but they were sharp as glass. That night, the restaurant, I sat at that table for 2 hours. You never came. Then a man walked in, handed me an envelope with a $500,000 check inside, and a note that said 3 words. Forget about me. Lucas went still. Emma, I never wrote that note. Of course you didn't. Her voice cracked into something bitter. Everyone says that. Did you really come back after 7 years to tell me it wasn't me? He stood up, started pacing. His mind was tearing through every memory of that week, every meeting, every person who could have moved that kind of money. That check. Do you still have it? I tore it up. She nodded toward a drawer. But I had a witness. Your mother came to see me. A week earlier. The memory rose up between them, uninvited. Vivian Marchetti, in a black coat, standing in Emma's tiny apartment doorway, setting a folder on the kitchen table. Photographs spilling out, bodies, blood, the aftermath of what Lucas's family did when no one was watching. Do you know who Lucas really is? He is the boss of the Marchetti family. You are a weight around his neck. If you love him, you will disappear. This is his world. Do you want your child to grow up in it? Emma's voice came back, quieter now. I thought I was strong enough. I really did. But that same night I found out I was pregnant. And I couldn't let my baby grow up inside that. Lucas sat down heavily, buried his face in his hands. Why didn't you tell me about Lily? I tried. Her voice didn't waver. It just got smaller. I called you, over and over. Nobody picked up. I went to your building. Security threw me out. Twice. And then a woman came to find me. Isabella Romano. She told me you were engaged. She showed me the wedding photos, the dress, the venue. Lucas's jaw locked. The engagement his mother had arranged 6 years ago, quietly, like signing a treaty. I went to Boston, Emma continued. I gave birth in a clinic. No one held my hand. I almost died, Lucas. Did you know that? I almost died bringing your daughter into the world. Emma, don't. She wiped her cheek with the back of her wrist. Don't look heartbroken now. I already cried enough for both of us. He swallowed. Why did you come back to New York? Lily has asthma. The hospital in Queens runs a charity program. I didn't have a choice. And the men who attacked you? 2 weeks ago. Emma went silent. He saw the fear flicker across her face before she could hide it. He moved closer, slowly. Emma, who did this to you? Her hands started to shake. They didn't say names, but they were looking for something, tearing apart drawers, cabinets. One of them said it. She took a breath. He said, the lady told us not to come back without the ring. The room went cold. Lucas stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. Isabella. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Marcus, send 4 men. Now. I want this building locked down. Behind him, Emma's voice came small but hard. I don't need your protection. I need you to leave. He didn't turn around. He just slipped the phone back into his coat. This time, Emma, I'm not leaving. Long Island, the next morning. The Marchetti estate sat on 12 acres of manicured silence. Inside the sunroom, Vivian Marchetti poured tea from a porcelain pot that had outlived 3 generations of women who'd sat in this exact chair. Across from her, Isabella Romano stirred her cup without drinking it. There was a child at the tower yesterday. Vivian didn't look up. What kind of child? Emma Carter's child. The teaspoon stopped moving in Vivian's hand. How old? 6. Maybe a little older. Vivian set the cup down. The math was already running behind her eyes 6 years, plus the months before. The timing landed exactly where she had spent 7 years pretending it wouldn't. Does Lucas know? He took her upstairs himself. He wouldn't even let me ride home with him. The wedding is in a month. I know. Vivian's voice dropped. Isabella, don't let that child stand between us and what we built. Isabella's face softened into something that looked almost demure. Don't worry. I know how to handle Emma Carter. She's a practical woman. She left for money once. She'll leave for more. You're a smart girl. Do it your way. But never let Lucas know I had a hand in it. He won't. Isabella smiled gently into her cup. She had no intention of paying Emma anything. She had something far more permanent in mind. Queens. Same morning, Emma woke to gray light through the curtain and the soft sound of breathing she didn't expect. Lucas was on the worn sofa across from the bed, still in last night's suit, his tie loosened, his hand resting on Lily's small back, slowly stroking her hair as she slept curled against his arm. Emma's chest twisted. You don't get to do that. He looked up. He didn't move his hand. I called my doctor. He's coming to look at your leg. I told you to leave. Emma, this isn't a request. Dr. Reynolds arrived 20 minutes later. He examined Emma's femur in silence, pressed 2 fingers along the brace, frowned. The original setting was wrong. If it heals like this, you may never walk normally again. You need surgery. Soon. I don't have the money. Already arranged, Lucas said. Lenox Hill. This afternoon. I'm not taking your money. Then call it 6 years of back support I owe my daughter. Emma's mouth opened, closed. The sentence had cut a path she couldn't argue around. Lily stirred, blinked up at the room, and saw Lucas first. A small smile spread on her sleepy face. You're still here, I promised. She rolled toward Emma. Mommy, don't be mad. I know you said not to go far. Emma pulled her in and pressed her forehead against her daughter's temple, eyes shut. I'm not mad. I was just scared I lost you. Lucas watched them, and for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be a man standing outside a thing he should have belonged to. After Reynolds left, Emma motioned Lucas into the narrow hallway. She kept her voice low, but every word landed like a final ruling. I'll have the surgery. For Lily, but understand me. There is no us coming back. I will not return to you. I will not trust you. And the moment I'm walking again, I'm taking my daughter and disappearing. Emma, you can't. Watch me. His phone buzzed against his hip. He glanced down. Mother, he answered. Vivian's voice came through, smooth and cold as Riverstone. Lucas, I need to see you. Right now. There are things we need to make very clear. He looked back at Emma. She was already turning away. 3 days later, Emma's surgery had gone well. The bone had been reset. The doctors said she'd walk again slowly, with therapy, but she'd walk. She left the recovery wing on a pair of crutches she refused to lean on more than she had to. Lucas drove her himself. He didn't take her back to Queens. He took her to the Marchetti estate. Emma realized it the moment the car turned through the iron gates. Lucas, what are we doing here? My mother needs to look you in the eye. I don't owe her that. No. His voice was flat. She owes you, and it's time she paid in person. The reading room smelled of old paper and lemon polish. Vivian Marchetti waited in a high-backed chair, dressed in black silk, her hands folded as if for a deposition. Isabella stood by the window, ankles crossed, pretending to read a book she wasn't reading. Vivian's eyes flicked to Emma, then to the crutches, then away. I hear there is a child named Lily Carter. You weren't going to tell me, Lucas? You already knew, didn't you, Mother? She didn't deny it. I did what I had to do to protect this family. You forced Emma out. You wrote a $500,000 check in my name. You blocked her from ever reaching me. Yes. Vivian lifted her chin. Because she wasn't worthy. A poor nurse, no family, no allies. Lucas slammed his palm down on the desk. She was carrying my child. Lily is my daughter. Vivian smiled. A small, cold smile. Your daughter? Are you sure, Lucas? The room dropped a degree. She was a night nurse, working overnight shifts. In a public hospital, how many men pass through her hands in a single shift, do you think? How can you possibly know that child is yours? Emma went still. The blood drained from her face. Isabella stepped forward, voice softened to a sympathetic hush. Mrs. Marchetti is right. I read an article once. Night shift nurses, some of them aren't always careful. Maybe Emma was just looking for the right wallet to pin a baby to. You're the perfect target, Lucas. Wealthy, single, soft-hearted underneath all that. 6 years of silence, Vivian said. And then suddenly, a child appears. How convenient. Or maybe, Isabella added gently, she was waiting for you to become rich enough to come collect. A long con. Emma's hands trembled, but her voice didn't. I don't need any of you to believe me. I didn't come here for money. Lily came because she loves her mother. That's all this ever was. Lucas turned slowly toward his mother, toward Isabella. His eyes had gone the color of cold steel. Are you two finished, Lucas? Vivian said evenly. I'm only stating the truth. A simple DNA test will end this debate. I don't need a test. I just need to look at her face. Isabella tilted her head. Sentiment isn't proof, darling. You're being soft because of the circumstances. Lucas crossed the room. He stopped beside Emma, not in front of her, beside her, close enough that his shoulder almost touched hers. It was the smallest gesture, and it changed everything in the room. Lily is my daughter, I know it. And if either of you says one more word against Emma in my presence, you will find out what Lucas Marchetti looks like when he's actually angry. Vivian's lips parted. She had never, in 37 years, seen her son stand in front of her on behalf of another woman. Isabella forced a brittle laugh. So you're choosing her over me? I never chose you, Lucas said. My mother did, not me. Emma turned her head toward him. Her voice came low, but iron underneath. I don't need you to defend me. I can defend myself. Take me home. He didn't argue. He held the door for her, and they walked out without looking back. In the car, Emma kept her face turned to the window. Tears tracked silently down her cheek. She didn't speak. Lucas reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull it away, but she didn't take it back either. Behind them, in the doorway of the estate, Vivian Marchetti watched the taillights disappear down the long driveway. For the first time in her life, she felt that she might have pushed her son 1 inch too far. Isabella drove home from the Marchetti estate, with her hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. She had come into that room expecting to win. She had walked out watching Lucas Marchetti stand beside another woman. She understood something then. Money was no longer enough. Emma Carter wouldn't be bought. So Emma Carter would be broken. Isabella was not stupid. She was patient, and she did not leave fingerprints. The first photograph arrived at Lucas's office 4 days later. It came in a manila envelope, no return address. Inside, a single 8x10 print. Emma stepping out of a midtown hotel, smiling up at a tall man whose hand was on her lower back. A typed note slid out behind it. She hasn't changed. Don't be fooled again. Lucas studied the photo for a long time. Then he handed it to Marcus. Find out when this was taken. Marcus came back within the hour. Boss. The date stamp on the lobby footage from that hotel that morning. Emma was still in post-op at Lenox Hill. She didn't leave the recovery wing for 36 hours. The photo was a fake. Lucas didn't tell Emma. He didn't want her carrying that weight on top of everything else. He only said 3 words to Marcus. Find the source. But the source had been routed through 2 anonymous accounts and a paid courier. The trail went cold. The second move came 2 weeks later. Emma had recovered enough to walk without crutches. She'd called St. Mary's about returning to her shifts. They'd been delighted. Then, 3 days before her start date, the head of nursing called her in. Miss Carter, we received a phone call from an investigative journalist. She claims you have files, disciplinary issues, patient complaints. We have to suspend you until we look into it. Emma's chest went hot. She called Lucas from the hospital parking lot. I don't need you to fix this. I will handle it myself. She walked into the personnel office the next morning, requested every record under her name, and laid them out one by one, spotless, commendations, 2 thank you letters from patients' families. The director apologized within an hour. But while Emma had been across the city defending her name, someone else had been moving on a different front. Mrs. Hayes called that afternoon. Her voice was tight. Mr. Marchetti, we were at the playground. A woman approached Lily. Lucas's blood went cold. Tell me what happened. She said she was from a private academy, very prestigious. Wanted to give Lily a tour. Something about her was off. I refused. We left immediately. Marcus dug into the school name within the hour. No such academy existed. The teacher's credentials were fabricated. Lucas began to suspect, but still no proof. Then came the cookies. A small white box arrived at the apartment. The card read, "From the staff at St. Mary's. Welcome back to health." Lily opened it first, took 2 bites of the gingerbread. Within 20 minutes, her arms were swollen with red welts and her breathing started to whistle. Emma drove her to the ER herself, jaw clenched, telling Lily over and over that Mommy was right there. Mommy was right there. The doctor identified an herbal compound harmless to most people, but a known asthma trigger. Someone had baked it into the dough. Emma traced the return address on the box. It was a UPS store in Brooklyn that had no record of the sender. That night, with Lily finally asleep and breathing steady again, Emma did something she hadn't done since the night they met again. She picked up the phone and called Lucas. "I think someone is trying to hurt my daughter." He was at the apartment in 26 minutes. His face had gone the color of stone. "You're moving in with me, tonight." "No, I will not live under your mother's roof." "Then somewhere else, somewhere safe. Just you, me, and Lily." Emma turned, looked at her daughter sleeping on the small bed, the welts still faintly red on her thin arms. She closed her eyes. "Temporary, until I find out who is doing this." The house Lucas rented sat on a quiet bend of the Hudson, set back from the road behind tall hedges. 2 bedrooms, a small garden. No one knew the address but Marcus. Emma stood at the window after Lily was asleep, watching the river move. Lucas stood behind her. He didn't touch her. He just stood there. "I still don't trust you," she said quietly, "but I need you to protect my child." "Our child," Lucas said. "I'll take that." The house on the Hudson was quiet in a way that felt almost foreign. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen with morning light, a garden out back with a wooden bird feeder Lily discovered within 10 minutes of arriving. By the second day, she had named every sparrow. It was nothing like the Marchetti estate. No marble, no staff in uniforms, no portraits of dead patriarchs watching from the walls. Just wood, soft rugs, and the sound of the river through open windows. Emma chose the bedroom upstairs, the one farthest from Lucas's. Lucas didn't argue. He took the room across the hall and slept with his door half open every night, in case Lily called out. Mrs. Hayes was brought in to help. She took to the kitchen as if it had always been hers. A pattern formed without anyone naming it. Every morning, before Emma came down, Lucas brewed coffee. Black, no sugar. Exactly the way she'd taken it 7 years ago. He left the cup on the table, beside whatever book she'd been reading the night before, and was gone to his study by the time she appeared. Emma never thanked him out loud, but she drank it. Every morning. Lily was the only bridge between them. She walked back and forth across it without realizing what she was carrying. One morning, sitting on the kitchen counter while Emma made toast, Lily tilted her head and said, "Mommy, why don't you talk to Daddy?" Emma's hand stopped on the butter knife. The word hadn't been agreed upon. Daddy, Lily had picked it up on her own. Somewhere between the garden and the breakfast table. "Mommy and we have things that need time, sweetheart. Daddy said he did something wrong to you. He said he's trying to fix it. Some things can't be fixed, baby." "Why not?" Lily looked genuinely confused. "Miss Hannah at school said nothing is impossible if you try hard enough." Emma didn't answer. She just pulled her daughter into her arms and pressed her cheek against Lily's hair. That evening, Lucas found Emma in the small reading room with a worn paperback. "Can I sit? It's your house. You don't need permission. It's our house. You do." Emma turned a page she hadn't read. He sat across from her, far enough not to crowd, close enough that the silence between them changed shape. "I want you to know something, Emma. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to be safe, and I'm asking to be a father to Lily. You can be Lily's father. You will not be my husband." He took the hit without flinching. "Then let me earn the first thing. The other one I'll wait, as long as it takes. You shouldn't wait. You should find someone who fits the life you live. My life is changing." She looked up. "In 2, maybe 3 years, I'll have moved everything Marchetti onto legal ground, real estate, investment, charity. After that, I'll be a normal man, with a normal name on my office door." Emma's voice softened, almost without her permission. "Why?" "Because 7 years ago I promised I'd get you out of that world. I didn't keep that promise. I'm keeping it now, whether you come back to me or not." Her hand tightened on the spine of the book. "That's your choice. Not because of me." "Yes," he said quietly. "I'm doing it for me." He stood, walked to the door, and paused with his hand on the frame. "Thank you for giving me Lily." Emma did not turn around. but the book in her lap pressed white against her fingers. Across the city, in the Marchetti estate, Vivian sat alone in the great living room. A leather album was open in her lap, a photograph of Lucas at 7 years old, missing 2 front teeth, laughing at something behind the camera. She hadn't seen him laugh like that in 30 years. She picked up her phone, called, voicemail, called again, voicemail. On the 3rd try, he answered, "Mother. After what you said to Emma, do not expect me to forgive you easily. Lucas, I only suggested a paternity test. To be sure, you don't need to be sure. You need to understand this. If you hurt Emma or Lily again, you will lose me, permanently." The line went dead. Vivian Marchetti sat in the largest room of the largest house she had ever owned, and for the first time in her life, she felt how cold it was to be the only one in it. Isabella did not back down. She got smarter. She stopped sending things directly, stopped using couriers. Every move now traveled through 3 layers of strangers, each paid in cash, none of whom knew her name. Her next strike was the bank. Emma had a small savings account at a Queens branch, money scraped together over 6 years of double shifts and skipped lunches. $8,000. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Isabella made one phone call to a vice president she had once dated. 2 days later, the account was frozen. Suspicious activity, pending review. Emma didn't tell Lucas. She went to the branch alone, took a seat across from the manager, and laid every deposit slip from the past 6 years on his desk. She made him explain. She made him put it in writing. 2 days later, the account was unfrozen. No apology, no real reason given. She walked out of the bank in the cold afternoon light, and for the first time, she let herself say the name out loud. Isabella. It was the only person in the world who would care about $8,000 she didn't have. The article hit a tabloid the following Sunday. Mafia hire Lucas Marchetti's secret love child with questionable Queen's nurse. The photograph was old Emma walking out of a clinic with Lily as a toddler, looking exhausted. The caption painted her as a gold digger, a long con, a predator. Emma read it twice. Her face went pale, but she didn't cry. She walked to the fireplace, balled the paper in her fist, and threw it in. Then she heard the front door. Lily came home from school, clutching her backpack against her chest. Her eyes were red. "Mommy, the kids said you're a bad person. They said you're a liar." Emma knelt down on the floor in front of her daughter and held her face gently in both hands. "Bad people are the ones who say bad things about your mother. You're stronger than them. You hear me? Lily? You are stronger than every single one of them." Lily nodded, then buried her face in Emma's shoulder and stayed there for a long time. Lucas traced the article through a shell company in Delaware. The trail looped through 3 corporate layers and ended at a payment routed through Romano family attorneys. It pointed at Isabella, but it didn't hold her. The 4th strike came 2 days later. Emma was driving Lily to school in the SUV Lucas had assigned them. She tapped the brakes at a stop sign on a narrow stretch of road by the river. The pedal sank to the floor. Emma's hands locked on the wheel. She downshifted, pulled the parking brake, steered into the soft shoulder. The car ground to a stop in a spray of gravel, 10 feet from a guardrail and a 40-foot drop into the Hudson. Lily was crying in the back seat. Emma turned around, voice steady. "We're okay, baby. Mommy's right here." Marcus arrived within 20 minutes. He crawled under the chassis with a flashlight, climbed back out with grease on his hands and his jaw set. The brake line was cut, halfway through, just enough to give out under load. Lucas's face went the color of stone, but there was still no fingerprint on the wrench. That night, Emma walked into Lucas's office with Lily already asleep upstairs. She closed the door behind her. "Sit down. We need to talk." Lucas sat. "It's Isabella. I'm done pretending it could be anyone else." 4 times. Lucas. Poisoned cookies. The fake photograph. The bank. Now the brakes. All of it aimed at me and Lily. "Emma, I don't have evidence solid enough to. I'm not building a case for court. I need my daughter alive. You need to handle her." "I will. But it has to be done right. If I move on a Romano without proof, the family declares war. People die. I don't care about family politics, Lucas. I care about my child." He looked at her then, really looked. The 21-year-old nurse with the tired eyes was gone. The woman in front of him was something carved out of years of fighting alone. A mother with steel in her hands. "1 week," he said. "I'll end this in 1 week." She nodded. Then, softer. "Lucas, one more thing." "What?" "Thank you. For staying." It was the first time she had said it. He didn't speak. He only nodded once, slowly, and left the room. In his study, he picked up the phone. "Marcus, Every resource we have. I want proof. She is not getting away. Lucas put 4 men on Isabella, around the clock. Within 72 hours, Marcus had what they needed. Isabella had been meeting a man named Vincent in a back booth of a dive bar in Brooklyn. Vincent was the kind of man whose resume was written in police files. Murder for hire, 3 jurisdictions. On the 4th night, one of Marcus's men placed a small recorder under that booth. The audio came back clean. Cutting the brakes wasn't enough. Use something else. The kid first, then the mother. I don't care how. I just want it done. Lucas listened to it 3 times. Then he set the phone down on his desk and called his mother. Dinner, Saturday. The estate. I'll be bringing Emma. Isabella will be there. So will Marcus. You will not interrupt. Vivian started to protest. He hung up. Saturday evening. The Marchetti dining room glowed with candlelight. 6 places set. Lily was not among them. Mrs. Hayes had taken her to a children's concert in Manhattan 2 hours earlier. Vivian glanced at Emma when she entered on Lucas's arm. Her mouth tightened, but she did not speak. Isabella, in a cream silk dress, smiled across the table. I'm so glad you and Emma have reconciled, Lucas. Truly. Lucas smiled back. It was the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. Thank you, Isabella. I'm glad things are about to be clear. He nodded once at Marcus. Marcus stepped forward, set a small black speaker on the linen tablecloth, pressed a single button. Isabella's own voice filled the room. The kid first, then the mother. I don't care how. I just want it done. The crystal in Vivian's hand went still. The blood drained from her face in real time. Isabella's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again with a brittle laugh. That's a fabrication. You're going to take a doctored recording over. Lucas slid a folder across the table. Photographs, wire transfers, a signed statement from Vincent, currently in federal custody, a printout of 3 phone calls between Isabella's burner and Vincent's burner. Isabella looked at the folder. The blood that had drained from her face came rushing back red. She slammed her palm down on the table. Yes, I did it, because she ruined everything. I deserve to be by your side, not her, not some cheap nurse with a bastard child. Vivian stood up. Isabella, you tried to murder a 6-year-old. That child is my granddaughter. She walked around the table, and then for the first time in her life, Vivian Marchetti raised her hand and slapped another woman across the face. The crack of it echoed off the walls. You are not fit to call yourself human. Isabella stumbled, catching herself on a chair. The polished mask cracked. What rose up underneath was rage. You think you're better than me? You drove Emma out 7 years ago yourself. You just didn't dirty your own hands doing it. Vivian froze. The truth in those words landed somewhere deep, and she had no defense for it. Lucas's voice cut through. Enough, Isabella. You have 24 hours to leave New York. If I find you anywhere within state lines after that, you will not get a second warning. Isabella turned toward Emma. The hatred in her eyes was a living thing. You and that little girl will never be safe. I still have ways. Marcus took her by the elbow and walked her out. The door closed. 4 people remained in the dining room. The silence had weight. Emma, Vivian said quietly. I don't need an apology right now, Emma said. I need to know you will never harm my daughter again. I swear to you. On the Marchetti name. On whatever is left of my soul. Emma did not answer. She didn't forgive, but she didn't refuse either. Lucas drove her back to the Hudson house himself. In the passenger seat, Emma watched the city lights stretch past the window. Then she turned to him. You did well tonight. For the first time in 7 years, you stood with me in front of your mother. I should have done it long ago. She placed her hand over his on the gear shift. Light, brief. It was not a promise, but it was not nothing. In a black car heading south on the interstate, Isabella Romano dialed a number she had saved months ago and never used. Don Bianchi? It's me. I need to see you. I have an offer for you. A week passed. The Hudson house began to feel less like a hideout and more like a home. Emma stopped flinching when she heard Lucas's footsteps in the hallway. Lily started knocking on his study door without asking permission. Mrs. Hayes hummed in the kitchen as she cooked, and the bird feeder in the back garden had grown crowded enough that Lily named 2 new sparrows. On Saturday, Lucas suggested Central Park. Emma surprised them both by saying yes. They spread a blanket on a stretch of grass near Bethesda Fountain. Lily ran in wild loops chasing pigeons. Lucas leaned back on his elbows, watching her. Emma sat with her knees tucked up, eyes half closed against the sunlight. Lily spotted the ice cream cart and shrieked. Daddy! Daddy, please! He stood up and brushed the grass off his pants. Emma stayed on the blanket. watching him take their daughter's small hand and walk her toward the cart, her dark curls bouncing against the back of her jacket. For one strange, suspended moment, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in 7 years. Peace. Lucas came back with 2 cones in one hand and Lily perched on his hip. For you, Vanilla. The way you always liked it. Emma blinked. You remembered? I remember everything about you. 7 years. I didn't forget a single detail. She took the cone. She didn't trust her voice, so she just looked at him, and her eyes softened in a way she didn't fully give herself permission to feel. That same afternoon, in a back room of a closed restaurant in Brooklyn, Isabella Romano sat across from a man twice her age. Don Salvatore Bianchi was 60 years old. A scar ran from his left ear down to the corner of his jaw. His eyes were the color of wet steel. So, he said, Marchetti broke off your engagement. I can't say I'm shocked. I want your help. And what do you have for me? Isabella slid a folder across the table. Marchetti is moving everything legitimate. Real estate, banking, charity foundations. I have account numbers, contracts, names of his new partners. I will give you all of it. Bianchi tapped the folder twice with one thick finger. In exchange, I want 3 people dead. The same night, he raised an eyebrow. Emma Carter, the little girl, and Vivian Marchetti. Bianchi's hand stopped tapping. Vivian? Lucas's mother? She chose that nurse over me. She has to pay. He studied her for a long, unhurried moment. Then a slow smile spread across his face. You're crueler than I gave you credit for. I like that. He extended a hand. She took it. The deal was sealed. That evening, Vivian arrived at the Hudson house unannounced. She held a small white box of cookies she had baked herself. Emma watched her through the doorway for a long second, before stepping aside to let her in. Vivian sat carefully at the kitchen table. Lily came barreling down the stairs and stopped short. Grandma, you came to see me. Vivian froze. The word grandma had never been said to her, not once in her life. Yes, I came to see you. Do you want to see my drawing? Lily ran upstairs and came back with a sheet of paper. A house with a red roof. 4 figures holding hands in front of it. A father, a mother, a small girl, and an old woman with silver hair. Who is this one? Vivian asked, pointing carefully. That's you. Vivian opened her mouth to say something. Nothing came out. Her eyes filled, and she didn't try to stop them. Later, when Lily had been put to bed, Vivian slid an envelope across the table to Emma. I came to ask forgiveness. Not with words, with actions. Emma opened it. An updated will. Lily, named primary heir to Vivian's personal estate. She pushed it back. I don't want your money. This isn't money. It's recognition. I want the world to know Lily is my granddaughter. Marchetti blood. Emma was quiet for a long time. Recognition matters more than inheritance. Will you stay for dinner? Vivian looked stunned. May I? For Lily. Vivian nodded. She stayed. When Lucas came home an hour later, he stopped in the doorway. His mother and the woman he loved were sitting at the same table, eating from the same plate of bread. He smiled, very faintly, and didn't speak. Outside, on the dark road past the gate, a black sedan sat with its lights off. A man inside lifted his phone and took 3 photographs of the lit kitchen window. He sent them, then typed one line. All 3 are there. Friday night. We move. Friday came quietly. Lucas had a meeting in Manhattan that ran long. Investors, lawyers, 3 different signatures needed to push the legitimate transition another step forward. Marcus rode with him. Before he left, Vivian asked to stay at the Hudson house. She wanted to teach Lily how to knit. Emma agreed. It seemed harmless. 11 p.m. Lily was already asleep upstairs. A half-finished knitted scarf curled beside her pillow. Emma sat in the reading room with a paperback open against her knee. Vivian sat by the fireplace, 2 needles clicking softly in her hands. Then the security feed on the side console blinked. The West Garden camera went black. Outside, 2 security men patrolling the perimeter didn't react. They had been paid not to. A heartbeat later, glass shattered somewhere behind the kitchen. Vivian was on her feet before Emma fully understood the sound. Emma, upstairs. Get Lily, now. Emma moved. Her leg still wasn't fully strong, but fear is its own anesthetic. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time, threw open Lily's door, and scooped her sleeping daughter into her arms. Mommy, what's quiet, baby? Quiet. Mommy will explain. Just be quiet. Vivian met them in the hallway. Her phone was in her hand, dead-faced. I tried to call Lucas. The signal is jammed. Boots on the staircase. Heavy. Multiple. Vivian's eyes flickered. She crossed to the bookshelf at the end of the hall, pulled hard on the third volume from the left, and the shelf swung inward a narrow servant's passage, original to the house. Now, the bedroom door at the end of the hall exploded inward off its hinges. 6 men flooded into the corridor. Don Salvatore Bianchi walked in last, in no hurry at all. 3 generations of Marchetti women, in one house. How convenient. Vivian stepped between him and the others. Touch them, and I will kill you myself. Bianchi laughed. Old woman, you don't have a gun. One of his men reached for Lily. Vivian grabbed a brass lamp from the side table and swung it at his head. It glanced off his shoulder. He shoved her hard. She went down against the wall. Grandma! Lily screamed. Emma lunged, half falling, and caught Vivian under the arms. Bianchi spoke once. All 3. Down to the car. Bind them. Gag the kid. The traitorous gate guard was already holding the back exit open. They were loaded into a windowless van within minutes. Inside the van, Vivian leaned close to Emma in the dark, her voice barely a thread. You and Lily have to live tonight. Lucas needs you both. You too. Lucas needs you. Vivian reached and found Emma's hand in the darkness. For the first time, she held it without hesitation. I'm sorry, Emma. For all of it. Not now. Apologies later. Tonight we survive. Lily was wedged between them. She buried her face into Emma's side. Mommy, I'm scared. I'm here, baby. Mommy is right here. I'm not going anywhere. The van stopped behind an abandoned warehouse in the Bronx. Broken windows. Rusted chain link. They were dragged inside. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Isabella Romano stood under it, in a long red silk dress, smiling like she'd been waiting all evening. Welcome, ladies. 3 generations of Marchetti women in one room. This is going to be a long night. You have no right to do this, Vivian said. I have Bianchi. I have a gun. That's all the right I need. Isabella walked slowly toward the chair where Lily had been forced to sit. She crouched down, almost gently. You, little girl, you ruined my entire life. Emma threw herself in front of the chair, hands still bound but body unmistakable. You touch my daughter. I will tear your face off with my teeth. Isabella laughed high, delighted. So much courage, the 2 of you. Such a shame this is your last night to use it. Across the river, in the back of an SUV pulling out of a Manhattan parking garage, Lucas Marchetti's phone lit up. The voice on the other end was a wounded gate guard, breathing hard. Boss. They're gone. All 3 of them. Bianchi's men. The phone went silent in Lucas's hand for 1 full second. Then his voice came out flat, low, and absolutely murderous. Every team. Every weapon. Track the van. Now. The fluorescent light above the warehouse hummed and flickered. 3 chairs. 3 women. Wrists bound. Lily's small ankles didn't reach the floor. Isabella paced in front of them. The pistol balanced loosely in her hand like an accessory she had grown used to. Vivian, did you ever realize how many years I spent preparing to be your daughter-in-law? 7. I learned how you take your tea, how you sit at dinner, how you say good evening. I gave up the man I actually loved for this engagement. You did it because the Romano family wanted Marchetti territory, Vivian said. Don't dress it up as love. Isabella slammed the butt of the gun against the metal table. The sound rang off the walls. I loved Lucas. You think I didn't? I loved him from the first time I saw him. And you chose a cheap nurse and her bastard child over me. Emma's voice came out steady, almost quiet. You don't love Lucas. You love what he is. Isabella whipped around. Shut up. You don't understand a thing. I understand perfectly, because if you loved him, you would never have tried to kill his daughter. The pistol came up, aimed straight at Emma's forehead. That attack on your apartment in Queens was supposed to finish you. The men I hired botched it. I should have done it myself. Vivian's head snapped around. You ordered the attack on Emma. Yes, I did, because I didn't want her surviving long enough for Lucas to find her again. And every move after that, the cookies, the fake photographs, the bank, the breaks, all of it was me. And no one ever caught me, because I was too smart for any of you. Vivian stared at her like she was looking at a stranger wearing a familiar face. I trusted you. I treated you like a daughter. I introduced you into my home, and you threw me out like trash. Then something inside Vivian Marchetti broke, quietly, cleanly. After 70 years of holding on to the wrong things, she turned her face toward Emma. Her eyes were wet. Emma, can you forgive me? Not now. Please. It has to be now. There may not be another chance. Vivian's voice trembled, but she kept going. I have lived my entire life believing the family came first. I forced you out 7 years ago because I decided you weren't worthy. But tonight, watching you put your body in front of your child without 1 second of hesitation, I understand. You are the strongest person I have ever met. And I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. Don't talk like you're saying goodbye. If only one of us walks out of here, Vivian whispered. Let it be you and Lily. I have lived long enough. I deserve to pay for the things I chose. A small voice cut through. You're a bad lady. Lily had lifted her chin. She was looking straight at Isabella. Isabella turned. Shut up, you little, I'm not afraid of you. My daddy is coming. Isabella laughed, and the laugh was no longer pretty. It was hollow and cracking at the edges. Your daddy? Lucas is in Manhattan, 30 miles away. By the time he gets here, you'll all be dead. Emma's bound fingers strained sideways and found Vivian's. They locked together, two women who had spent 7 years on opposite sides of a wall, holding each other in the only way they could. Vivian, Emma whispered, I forgive you, not because you've earned it, because I refuse to carry hatred into my daughter's life. Vivian's shoulders shook. Tears rolled down a face that hadn't allowed itself to cry in decades. The side door banged open. Don Bianchi stepped in. Isabella, stop talking. Marchetti is 20 minutes out. Finish it. Isabella raised the pistol again. She steadied her grip. Her smile came back. Yes, it's time. Lily closed her eyes, and in a small, trembling voice, she began to sing the lullaby Emma had hummed to her every night since she was a baby. Vivian and Emma both closed their eyes. Their fingers tightened together. A gunshot cracked the air, but it had not come from inside the warehouse. It had come from the door. Lucas had arrived. The warehouse door blew off its hinges. Lucas came through first, body armor dark against the fluorescent light, 2 pistols in his hands. Marcus was behind him. 12 Marchetti men flanked them, weapons up, faces hard. 8 of Bianchi's men moved to engage. The gunfight tore through the open space in seconds. Short, brutal, one-sided. Isabella spun toward Lily, dragged her by the back of her small shirt off the chair, and pressed the pistol against the side of her head. Back off! Stay where you are, or I swear I will shoot her. Lucas froze mid-step. His eyes went black. The wolf in him went very, very still. Isabella, put it down. You've already lost. I have not lost. I still have the one thing you'd burn the world for. Let her go. I will let you walk out of here. Isabella laughed, and it cracked at the edges. You're lying. You have always been lying. Behind her, Marcus moved without sound, circling along the warehouse wall. In front of her, Vivian rose to her feet. Emma had spent the last 40 seconds working her wrists free and had passed her the slack rope. Vivian shook off her bindings and stepped into the open without hesitation. She did not run. She walked, slowly, putting her own body between Isabella and the child. Shoot me, Isabella. Shoot me through the chest if you have to, but you do not touch my granddaughter. The word landed in the room like an anchor. My granddaughter, said out loud, in front of everyone, without qualification. Emma's eyes filled. Her knees nearly gave. Isabella's hand wavered for half a second, then she swung the pistol toward Vivian and fired. The bullet caught Vivian's shoulder. She spun and went down, but her arms were already wrapping Lily, pulling the child under her chest, pinning her safe between bone and floor. That was the half-second Marcus needed. A single shot cracked. Isabella's leg buckled. The pistol clattered out of her hand and skittered across the concrete. Don Bianchi turned and bolted for the back exit. Lucas was already moving. He caught up with the older man at the loading bay door, drove him into the ground, and put a knee on the back of his neck until Marcus came running with cuffs. Inside, Emma's bonds dropped away under shaking fingers. She crawled, half stumbled, half ran to where Lily was curled under Vivian. Baby, baby, look at me, look at Mommy. Lily's small arms locked around her neck. Vivian was bleeding through the silk of her sleeve, but her eyes were clear. I'm fine. The shoulder. It went clean through. Emma laid her gently back against the floor and pressed both hands over the wound. Lucas came back through the door. The fight in his shoulders melted the second he saw all 3 of them alive. He fell to his knees and pulled them in. Lily first, then Emma, then his mother, all 3 together, his arms barely big enough. It's over. It's over. You're safe. Daddy. Lily's voice was muffled into his neck. Daddy, you came. Lucas froze. Daddy. The first time? Out loud. He buried his face in her hair and held her tighter than he had ever held anything in his life. I'm here. I will always be here. Emma didn't cry. She just shook, her hands fisted into the front of his vest like she would never let go. Vivian's voice came up from beneath them, faint but steady. "Lucas, I'm sorry. For everything. Mother. You don't have to apologize anymore. You stood in front of them tonight. The sirens came in waves. Isabella was wheeled out on a stretcher in handcuffs. As they passed Lucas, she turned her head. You will regret this." "No," Lucas said quietly. "I would only regret leaving you free." Marcus came up beside him. "Boss, Bianchi's been on the federal list for 2 years. Arms trafficking. He's not coming back out for a long time." Emma turned to Vivian. "Let me look at your shoulder. I'm all right. I have never been more all right." Emma tore a clean strip from her own shirt and bound the wound with the practiced hands of a woman who had spent 6 years in a hospital ward. Vivian watched her, eyes soft. "I could have had a doctor in my family if I hadn't been such a fool 7 years ago." Emma smiled, faintly. "You still can. Medicine doesn't have a deadline." Lily tucked herself against Vivian's good side. "Grandma, I'll help Mommy take care of you until you're better." Vivian held her granddaughter's small hand in her own. You are the best thing that has ever happened to this family." By the time they walked out of the warehouse, the sun was rising over the East River. 4 people, 1 family, stepping out of the longest night of their lives, into the light, together. A week later, Vivian Marchetti was discharged from the hospital with her arm in a soft sling. She did not go back to the estate. Emma had invited her to recover at the Hudson house, and to everyone's quiet surprise, including her own Vivian, had accepted. The house settled into something it had never been before. Not a hideout, not a temporary arrangement, a home. Vivian, who had not laughed easily in 30 years, laughed at the dinner table. She sat with Lily every afternoon at the small upright piano in the sitting room, guiding small fingers across the keys with the patience of someone who had finally found something worth being patient for. In the kitchen, Emma rolled out cookie dough with Mrs. Hayes. Flour dusted her sleeves. For the first time, she didn't feel like a guest in this life. Lucas stood quietly in the doorway, watching her without her knowing. His chest felt warm in a way he hadn't gotten used to. Mrs. Hayes leaned in close, voice low. "You did something I didn't believe anyone could do, dear. You gave this house a heart. It wasn't me. It was Lily. It was both of you." The kitchen door swung open and Lily came barreling in. "Mommy!" "Grandma says I can play Twinkle Twinkle all the way through now." Emma knelt down and pulled her into a flower-streaked hug. "I'm so proud of you, baby." Lucas stepped forward and held out his hand. "Walk with me a minute?" Lily took his hand without hesitation. He led her out the back door and across the lawn, around the rose bushes, to a corner of the garden Emma hadn't paid attention to in days. Lily stopped. A small wooden swing hung from the lowest branch of the old oak, sanded smooth, ropes new. "Daddy, did you make that?" "I built it. 3 days. My hands are full of splinters. You know how to make swings?" "I didn't. I learned." She climbed on. He pushed her gently, the rope creaking in the late afternoon sun. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart. Can I call you Daddy?" He stopped pushing. Something rose hard and fast in his throat. He walked around to the front of the swing and lowered himself down to the grass until they were eye to eye. "Daddy." "Yes, I would like that very much." Lily slid off the swing and threw both arms around his neck. "My daddy." He held her, eyes closed, and the tears came down without his permission and without his shame. On the porch, Emma stood with both hands wrapped around a coffee mug she had stopped drinking. Vivian came up beside her. "You did the right thing, bringing her here." "I didn't bring her. She came on her own. A clever child. A lucky child. Because she has a whole family now." Vivian was quiet for a long moment. "And what about you, Emma? Are you happy?" Emma watched her daughter laugh in Lucas's arms across the grass. "I'm learning how. It's been a long time. Take your time. We're not going anywhere." That night, after Lily was asleep, there was a soft knock on Emma's bedroom door. "May I come in?" "Come in." Lucas stepped inside and stayed near the door, hands in his pockets like he wasn't sure where to put them. "I want to talk to you. About the future." "Lucas, I'm not asking you for anything. You can leave whenever you want. I just need you to know I'll wait, as long as it takes." Emma's eyes softened. "You don't have to wait." "What do you mean?" She didn't answer with words. She crossed the room slowly. She stopped in front of him, lifted her hand, and pressed her palm flat against the front of his shirt directly over the breast pocket where, even now, he kept the folded drawing Lily had given him weeks ago. She looked up at him. "I'm learning, but I still need more time. Can you accept that?" He nodded once. "As long as you need." The next morning, the kitchen smelled like maple syrup and coffee. Sunlight came through the wide windows. Lily sat in the middle of the table, swinging her legs, a stack of pancakes the size of her face on the plate in front of her. Emma poured juice into a small glass. Lucas leaned against the counter with a mug in his hand, watching her in a way that was no longer careful. She caught his eye and looked down, but the corner of her mouth turned up. Lily wiped syrup off her chin with the back of her wrist. "Daddy? Mommy? Can we go to the zoo? Today?" Lucas asked. Today? Lucas glanced at Emma. She nodded, smiling. "Then we go to the zoo." Vivian stepped in from the hallway, pinning her hair up. "I'm coming too." Lily threw both arms in the air. "Yay! At the Bronx Zoo?" Lucas walked through the front gate without a single bodyguard at his shoulder. He hadn't done that since he was a boy. He took Emma's hand without thinking about it. She didn't pull away. Vivian led Lily to the monkey enclosure, where the little girl laughed so hard she had to sit down on a bench. Emma and Lucas walked slowly behind them. "Do you remember our first date?" Emma asked. "That little cafe in Brooklyn. You ordered a cappuccino. I ordered an Americano. You told me I had no idea how to appreciate coffee." She laughed. "You still remember?" "I remember everything." They reached the duck pond. Lily was tossing pieces of bread off the rail with great seriousness. Lucas stopped walking. "Emma, do you want to start over?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Lucas, I'm not the 21-year-old you knew. I've changed. I'm stubborn now. I don't trust easily. I won't let you go anywhere without knowing where. And I'm not the man I was at 30. I've gotten older. I've lost things. I've regretted every night for 7 years. Then we are two new people. One old story. Maybe we should write it again. From the beginning." He turned and faced her fully. "Then allow me to ask. Emma Carter, will you let me walk beside you from the beginning? Only if you promise. This time, you don't leave. I promise. With my life." She lifted her hand to his cheek. "Then yes." He kissed her slow, gentle. The kind of kiss that didn't need to prove anything. A small voice tugged at Emma's coat. "Mommy! Daddy! Grandma said we can have ice cream." They both laughed. Vivian came up behind them, smiling like she'd been waiting years to smile that way. That evening, after Lily had been tucked into bed, the little girl held onto Emma's hand. "Mommy, we stay here forever, right? Always. Forever. Mommy, I love Daddy. Does Daddy love you?" "I think he does. Do you love Daddy?" Emma was quiet for a moment. "I'm learning again." "Learn fast, Mommy, so we can be a family." Emma smiled and pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "I'll learn fast." She turned off the light, stood at the door watching Lily breathe softly for 1 minute, maybe 2. When she stepped into the hall, Lucas was waiting. "Stay with me tonight?" She didn't answer with words. She lifted her hand. He took it. They walked to the end of the long hallway together. The light from his open door spilled out warm onto the floor. 7 years apart, and they were finally, truly, walking back toward each other. Dear friends, what a beautiful chapter we have just shared. After years of pain, after misunderstanding, after silence and fear, Emma and Lucas chose each other again, not because they had to, but because love that is real is love that comes back. This story reminds us of something simple but easy to forget. Family is not something we are born into. Family is something we choose, every single day. It is the small things: a cup of coffee left on the table, a swing built with tired hands, a child's drawing kept in a coat pocket. It is the courage to forgive when forgiveness costs us our pride. It is the strength to stay when staying is harder than walking away. If you are watching tonight, ask yourself this: who in your life have you not yet forgiven? Who have you been afraid to walk back toward? Sometimes the door we think is closed is only resting against the frame, waiting for one honest knock. If this story moved your heart, please give us a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a story. We post new emotional stories every day, and your support means the world to us. We would love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, does Emma's journey remind you of someone in your own life? Have you ever had to forgive someone you thought you never would? Your words may be the very thing another viewer needs to read tonight. We wish all of you good health, peace in your heart, and warmth in your home every single day. Take care of yourselves and the people you love. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Goodbye for now, and we will see you in the next video.